Henry Louis Gates says, DNA don't lie, but it also doesn't provide 100% proof, especially when you're looking this far back in time. We were working at the limits of DNA's ability to identify relationships, but the accumulated evidence of multiple small matches has led us to my probable third great-grandparents. And most of all, keep digging. There are always more clues to be followed and more records to be found. And with that, I'll thank you for attending and for listening, and I'd be happy to answer questions. And as I mentioned when we were in our chat time, anyone related to the Johnstons of Pike County, Illinois, give us a call. So I know it's a long shot, but anyway. And I'll also make reference to the North San Diego County Genealogical Society. They're having their periodic beginning and refresher genealogy course on Saturday, November 11th. It's basically an all-day course from 10 a.m. to 4 in the Carlsbad City Georgina Cole Library. It's open to the public, it's free. So you can write to education1@nsdcgs.org if you're interested. And let's see, I have something noted in the chat, so let me see what it says. It's Barbara says thank you, and Jess says thank you. Thanks. Okay, so you're welcome. I love doing this stuff. You know, as I've said, it's sort of an obsession, but what can you do? Anyway, if anybody else has questions, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask a question.
Linda, I saw on here, so you use Ancestry.
Yes.
So I know very little about this other than hearing about 23andMe and Ancestry. Any reason you'd go one way or the other?
Yes. If you're looking for health information, 23andMe is the one to go to. Ancestry.com has, and I don't remember the numbers, if anybody knows, speak up. But anyway, Ancestry has the biggest database of family trees and individuals. And so if you're looking for matches and want to follow up within the tree and build out your tree, then you're more likely to find those matches on Ancestry. 23andMe is second. They have, you know, a fairly large database as well, but not as large as Ancestry. I will note that, as most genealogists do, I tested on both of those sites. Both of those sites, you have to test directly with them in order to get listed on their site for DNA purposes. There are other sites like MyHeritage, for instance, where you can either pay a small fee or sometimes it's even free to upload your data to their site so that you have access to the matches on their site as well. But with Ancestry and 23andMe, who have the biggest databases, you have to test directly with them. So, any other questions?
No, this is Irma. I just want to say I enjoyed it very much. I can't figure out how to put a message on the message line, but it's good seeing everybody.
Yeah.
My Mac working next time we have a Zoom meeting.
Great. Well, yeah. We're glad to see you. We're mixing up our meetings. Some of them are Zoom and some are in person this year. And that allows our distant people to join us and for the Zoom ones. And then we have the in-person ones so that we can see each other in 3D now and then.
Irma, just yes. I Googled how do you register to vote, and it lists a link that takes you to a state website, and then you can vote, register to vote there.
Okay, thank you. I'll try it out.
How do I register in California? Because you're not in San Diego County. You're in a different county, so.
Yeah, St. Clair, I think.
Yeah.
up here. Okay, I'll
But
check it
you
out.
can-
Just
But you can register online.
I was reading the paper this morning, and the election's coming up, and I said I better get my voter registration in.
Yes, we want you voting.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's a good reminder. This is a public service announcement for everybody present. Make sure you're registered, especially if you've moved recently, then you may need to, change your registration. So,
I'm tempted to go back to Texas and vote there and vote against the governor, but that'd probably be illegal, wouldn't it?
they'd probably frown on it.
Yeah.
Oh dear. And by the way, I noticed people bringing up their video now, which is good because then we can see your smiling faces. Any other comments, questions, discussion items?
What
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
mentioned-
work you did, Linda, but I can see how you can just continue to go on and on and on. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and you just want to keep finding the next thing out. So
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
my sister's done a lot of work on my family, but I haven't done anything.
Yeah. Well, and for this particular project, we had 3 of us working it. So
Yeah.
that helps a lot too. And well, 3 of us actually working the project, but lots of other people testing and providing us with their results. So anyway, I'm pretty excited because Sarah Johnson Barr has been a brick wall on my tree for so long, and I couldn't find her family. And of course, with a name like Johnson, you don't want to make any leaps of faith and just say, well, here's a Johnson. So it's different if you have, an odd surname that you're not going to find everywhere.
Right.
But with Johnson, no, you have to have some way of proving it. So, and yes, one thing leads to another, and you keep going and you keep going. But a lot of us are obsessed, and so it just keeps going, keeps going. Of course, I've researched my husband's family tree as well. He largely doesn't care. But when I traced him back to the Mayflower, I was like, yes, Dave, I traced you back to the Mayflower. And he's like, yeah, okay.
My sister traced our family back to the Mayflower as
Yeah.
well.
Well, then I traced him back to Jamestown.
Wow.
I said, Dave, and he's again like, well, I told you we'd been here a long time. I said, Dave, there's a long time and there's Jamestown. So 1609. So
Wow.
Yeah, you got me remotivated. My brother actually did our family tree for the father's side of the family and traced back to Ireland, but I know very little about my mother.
yeah, and sometimes that's it. Like if you watch Henry Louis Gates' program Finding Your Roots on PBS, a lot of times the people who come to him know a lot about one side of the family and nothing about the other side for various and sundry reasons. But I just read the book The Stranger in My Genes, Genes, that Carol Snow, my cousin Carol, who's online with us, recommended to me. And it was written by Bill Griffith, who I had seen for many years on CNBC. He was the anchor on Power Lunch and The Closing Bell on CNBC Business Reports. And it turned out he had his DNA done when he was 56 years old. And a cousin asked him to do it because the cousin was doing the DNA side. Bill Griffith had an interest in family history forever, had traced the Griffith line way back into New England and everything. And then he took his DNA test, and turns out he did not match any of the Griffith cousins.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so he took another test from a different lab, did not match the Griffith cousins. So ended up pursuing that, and he tells his story in the book, The Stranger in My Genes. And then he tells the follow-on story in a subsequent book called Strangers No More, where he talks about meeting the biological family. So, and the story behind how he came to not be his father's son. And his father was deceased at the point where he learned this, but his mother was living, and she was 95 years old. So he struggled with whether to bring it up to her or not, because he was clearly related to her, but not to the father who had raised him. So anyway, so interesting stories. I haven't come across anything like that, by the way.
In
We
your
always-
family?
What was that?
You haven't come across anything like that in your family?
Right. The family I expected is the family, they're mine. For better or for worse, they're all mine. But we joke about, living for finding skeletons in the closet, But you read about Bill Griffith struggling with how to deal with this information, and it's not really quite as funny. So anyway, but yeah, everyone that I thought was related to me is related to me. A number of I've got more family on my mother's side who have tested. My father's side, small family. My father died young, so there aren't many people to test.
Linda, you mentioned another book at the beginning of the talk.
Oh, The Foundling.
Oh, The Foundling.
The Foundling. And there's some others too that are, I think the Foundling I'm thinking about is based on a true story. There's more than one book called The Foundling. There's also the book about the three brothers who